Hoshin Kanri, a Japanese term, is a top-down, bottom-up, systematic and structured strategic planning process that engages all levels of organization while creating a measurable and aligned goals that imbue the concept of continuous improvement through the use of plan, do, check, act cycle. Ho means direction, Shin means focus, Ken means alignment, and Ri means reason. Hoshin Kanri is sometimes referred to as a policy management, policy control, or management by policy. It is also known as by many different names such as Hoshin planning, policy deployment, policy management, policy control, management by policy. The figure 1.1 represents the underlying principles and concepts upon which Hoshin Kanri is built. Now, this process on the development of both long-term and mid-term plans while focusing on short-term plans as well. Long-term plans are usually 2 to 5 years. Mid-term plans are from 1 to 2 years or 3 years. And short-term plans are generally 1 year long and are commonly called the annual or operational plan. Another key aspect of this diagram is worth highlighting is the idea of alignment or focus. Hoshin Kanri is essentially all about organizational alignment. It creates both vertical and horizontal alignment, thus establishing focus throughout the entire organization. Now let's look at the figure 1.2. The figure 1.2 depicts an example of the hierarchy of plan deployment in an organization. Notice that plans may be deployed either through individuals or organizational structures. In fact, plans may be deployed to cross-functional teams as well, thus creating horizontal alignment. Cross-functional team means in which the members have different skill sets and are all working towards a common goal. Figure 1.3 illustrates a generalized Hoshin Kanri process flow. Key inputs to the planning process are the SWOT and PEST analysis, which we discussed earlier in this section. These analyses help provide both internal and external perspectives. Also, customer, employee, and shareholder input is specifically sought. The weight of these inputs can carry significant influence on the planning process. Additional stakeholder, for example, community, suppliers, partners, input may be added as the organization deems appropriate. Figure 1.3 also illustrates that strategies are measured at the strategy level. Strategies are measured at the strategy level. Now, this will become clear in later figures or later diagrams. Strategies are also prioritized. This recognizes that not all strategies are created equal. Prioritizing strategies helps resolve issues later when strategies are assigned human resources and fundings. Plans are cascaded downward throughout the organization in a very systematic manner that also will be illustrated in our later diagrams. Further, plans are reviewed systematically. Actions taken when results fail to meet plans, and plans adjusted as necessary. The adjusting of strategic plans in mid-cycle is typically viewed as corporate sin, but with the Hoshin Kanri process, it is an integral part. Finally, the entire planning process is reviewed and lessons are gathered and incorporated as improvements into the following year's planning processes. This closed loop planning process created the plan, do, check, act loop mentioned previously. Figure 1.4 illustrates how this concept applies to the Hoshin Kanri framework. As objectives or targets are established, these are translated into the means. Objectives or targets are considered the what's while the means are considered the hows. The means at one level of the organization are the objectives or targets at the next lower level. Negotiation occurs between these two levels before the objectives or targets and means are finalized. This process continues down through the organization until the objectives or targets and means are deployed at the lowest level appropriate. This deployment activity recognizes the need for horizontal coordination. As discussed previously, one of the key principles and concepts associated with Hoshin Kanri process is the application of measurement directly to strategies. However, figures 1.4 and 1.5 relate this idea directly to goals and objectives, although figure 1.3 alluded to the idea of quantifying strategies directly. Fortunately, table 1.4 provides us with a common Hoshin planning matrix that permits a clear linkage across goals and objectives, strategies, metrics, and results. Let's examine this figure briefly. Goals and objectives category. This allows goals and objectives to be grouped logically and in a focused manner. Goals and objectives. Goals and objectives are stated quantitatively using the SMART approach. S in SMART stands for specific, M measurable, A action, O oriented, R reasonable, T timely. Strategies. These are verbalized succinctly, meaning clearly expressed manner. Each objective may have multiple strategies associated with it. Primary metric. This metric is used to measure whether or not the strategy is achieved. Countermeasure. Countermeasures are used to ensure that primary metrics are achieved, but not at the expense of something else. The countermeasure for strategy 1.1 attempts to ensure that the introduction of the no questions asked return policy reduces complaints but doesn't raise the return rate. Likewise, the countermeasures for strategy 2.1 is designed to prevent the problem from shifting elsewhere, in this case from receiving inspection to source inspection. Results. Notice that the results for strategy 1.1 are not yet being met. However, strategy 2.1 has already been achieved. Depending on whether the organization is in its operational cycle, management may elect to apply resources to strategy 1.1 to bring it on a track with its expectations. Further, it will continue to review strategy 2.1 to ensure that the gains are not lost. Strategy owner. Another fundamental concept from table 1.4 is embedded in this planning matrix, that of ownership. For each strategy, a strategy owner is identified at the executive level. This individual would serve as the coordinator across functional organization, such as business units, plants, departments, and so on, to ensure the synchronized development funding, resourcing, and accomplishment of this strategy. Briefly recall figure 1.5. In this example, a strategy owner would be required to provide coordinated effort across the 5 departments. For example, 1.4 top management of a manufacturing company has decided that the need exists to reduce customer order lead time by 50%. Figure 1.5 demonstrates via the method of target and means management how such a objective or target might be deployed. Notice in figure 1.5 that while the engineering and human resources departments do not have means responsibilities, both departments play supporting roles in achieving the targets. It should now be readily apparent that the planning metrics described in table 1.4 can be used at all levels of an organization as depicted in figures 1.2 and 1.4. Let's return to figure 1.3 for a moment. So far, we have addressed the plan and do phase of the plan, do, check, act cycle. As the Hoshin Kanri process continues through the organization's operation cycle, a system of reviews is established and conducted in a bottom-up manner. The process is now in the check phase. The system of reviews should be properly timed so that they progress rapidly up through the organization over a short period. During these reviews, it will be determined whether strategies are failing or not. If they are, resources may be applied or strategies adjusted as internal or external organizational conditions merit. When this occurs, the process has just entered the act phase. As stated previously, when the operational cycle of the organization ends, lessons are gathered and improvements made for the next planning cycle. This completes overarching PDCA cycle. This mini PDCA cycle shown in figure 1.3 is facilitated by the fact that adjustment to plans in mid-cycle is necessary as an integral part of the Hoshin Kanri process.